does it mean to pursue an impossible task? Made in Abyss by Akihiko Tsukushi is an attempt to answer this question. The manga stars Riko, a 12-year-old girl who lives in an orphanage next to the last remaining unexplored wonder of the world. That wonder is the Abyss, a seemingly bottomless, magical, kilometer-wide hole in the ground containing scientific miracles, priceless artifacts, and fearsome monsters. Like everyone in her city, she aspires to be a cave diver and join the ranks of the elite white whistles to spend her life exploring the Abyss and eventually see all of it. But eventually comes sooner than she thought, when she receives a letter from her mother, herself a white whistle and long thought dead. Fortunately for Riko, she's recently been rescued by a strange boy who she names Reg. Given that he's saved her by shooting a giant laser from his hand, it's immediately clear that Reg is something other than human, and could be a massive help to Riko on her journey. Reg is effectively invulnerable. He can stretch each arm 50 meters, can be woken up or fed with electricity, and most importantly, though he can't remember anything about it, he came from deep within the Abyss. The first and most important thing the reader learns about the Abyss is that getting in is easy, and getting out is hard. Each layer of the Abyss imposes a different toll on the human body when you ascend from it. For instance, anyone coming from the first layer will experience minor sickness. From the second, nausea, headaches, and numbness of the limbs. From the third, vertigo and hallucinations. From the fourth, systemic pain and bleeding from every orifice. From the fifth, total sensory deprivation and self-harm. And from the sixth, loss of humanity or death. These penalties are collectively known as the Curse of the Abyss. They cannot be avoided, and they specifically and exclusively affect humans. After the third layer, just trying to move upwards by more than a few meters is not advisable. No human has ever, and probably can ever, come back to the surface from beneath the sixth layer. But Reg isn't human. He is immune to all of these curses because he isn't human. That's how he was able to get to the surface at all, and that's why everyone who learns about him views him as a virtually priceless artifact. Not as much a person or a monster as an object. Only monsters survive the Abyss, and so the humans who go the furthest are those who enthusiastically surrender their humanity. Ozen the Immovable is an ancient white whistle who surrendered her emotions and ability to relate to others while diving the lower layers of the Abyss in exchange for great strength and functional immortality. She lives on the second layer of the Abyss, not actively plumbing the depths. Meanwhile, Bondrewd the Novel sits on the edge of the fifth layer, the final layer from which return is possible. He's a scientist whose experiments are centered around finding a way to return from the sixth layer and below. The word evil fails to describe the scope of the atrocities he has committed in pursuit of his goal. He is methodical, calculating, and ruthless in not only his methods, but the ethics which underlie his methods. Without spoiling too much, know that his work exploits basic human decency to deliberately cause as much pain as possible for his test subjects, as the suffering of those who love him directly furthers his goal. The problem is that Riko is not a monster, nor does she want to become one. Her journey becomes the journey to find another way, a better way, and for a hatred of spoilers, there may not be one. Our characters, young, kind, and certainly innocent, do not wish to become anything like these white whistles. And that struggle, not to reach the bottom, but to retain their humanity along the way, is what we call the impossible task. Riko knows the fate she has chosen. She will either die at the bottom of the Abyss or die before she gets there. And her adventure will continue until she is dead. But this does not stop her or even slow her down, and that is fucking incredible. It's not incredible because we can relate to it. Nobody reading or watching could ever actually push themselves to do something like this, but we love watching characters who can, because it feels like we could too. When we look at Riko, we think for just a glimmer of a second that maybe, just maybe, it's not impossible. Maybe it's not impossible because it's Riko, daughter of the greatest white whistle who ever was. She spent her whole life learning about everything there is to know about the Abyss. She's accompanied by Reg, the most powerful known artifact in the history of the entire Abyss. This is a girl who sees a letter, not even addressed to her, that's God knows how old, from somebody who may not even be her mother, telling her they're waiting at the end of a journey so difficult nobody has ever returned from the side mission to confirm that the main journey in question even has an end to get to, and Riko leaves the next day. We want to watch her try. There is something beautiful in the eternal struggle against impossible odds. Everything is impossible until somebody does it, and there's no reason it can't be a 12-year-old girl with a wacky waving invincible arm flailing tube boy. Impossible is not a fact, it's an opinion. Impossible is not a declaration, it's a dare. Impossible is potential. Impossible is temporary. Impossible is nothing.